Hey everyone, I'm Mr. Willis, and welcome to You Will Love AP Gov. Thanks for joining me for the first video in my series on the required foundational documents for AP U.S. government. Today's video is all about the Declaration of Independence. Drafted by Thomas Jefferson and adopted by the Second Continental Congress on July 4, 1776, it remains one of the most powerful political documents in history. If you're taking notes for your AP class or prepping for the AP exam, remember to click on the link below and download the free guided notebook page to make it easier to follow along. Let's break it down. Imagine you're in a toxic relationship. You're not respected, you're being controlled, and worst of all, you're paying all the bills but getting nothing in return. That's exactly how the American colonies felt about Britain in the 1770s. The colonies found themselves increasingly at odds with Britain over questions of governance and taxation, and in 1776, they decided it was time for a breakup. The result was the Declaration of Independence, a document that not only kicked off the American Revolution and threw off British rule in the colonies, but also redefined government itself. The Declaration of Independence is structured into 4 distinct sections, each serving a crucial purpose. The Preamble, which states the reason for the Declaration, the Declaration of Natural Rights, which establishes the philosophical justification for independence, the List of Grievances, which outlines 27 specific abuses committed by King George III against his subjects in the colonies, and the Resolution, which severed all ties with Britain and formally declared the colonies as free and independent states. The Declaration of Independence was a statement of political philosophy, heavily influenced by Enlightenment thinkers. Many of the Enlightenment ideas that would inspire America's independence and form the bedrock of American government can be found in the Preamble and the Declaration of Natural Rights, so that's where we'll focus our attention. Let's take a look at some of the most famous quotes from the Declaration of Independence and how you can interpret these quotes in an FRQ or an essay. At the start of the Preamble, Jefferson is setting the stage for why the American colonies are declaring independence from Britain. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. What Jefferson is saying is that when people decide to form their own government and leave another one behind, it's not something to be done lightly, so it's a really good idea to let the rest of the world know why they felt compelled to separate. This opening is meant to sound rational and respectful, showing that the colonies aren't acting out of rebellion or anger, but out of a thoughtful and just cause. After the opening, Jefferson comes to the true heart of the document, the Declaration of Natural Rights. This part of the Declaration pulls its inspirations from several key Enlightenment thinkers and serves not only as a checklist of what Americans believe, but as the philosophical justification for American independence. Let's break it up and focus on each Enlightenment ideal one at a time. It begins with the first undeniable fact of the American Creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Jefferson drew directly from the works of John Locke, particularly his 2 treatises of government, written in 1689. Locke was an advocate for the concept of natural rights, arguing that all individuals are born with inherent rights that are not granted by governments or kings, and therefore can never be taken away. To Locke, the most essential of these natural rights were life, liberty, and property. Jefferson adapted this idea, writing that all men are endowed with unalienable rights, and that chief among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because slaves were considered property in 1776, many historians believe that the revision of the right to property to pursuit of happiness was an attempt to avoid sanctioning slavery or codifying slave ownership as a God-given right of every American. Others see it as an effort to broaden the scope beyond material ownership to include personal fulfillment, civic freedom, and the right to self-determination. Jefferson continues that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Again, Jefferson draws from John Locke, who also proposed that government exists only with the consent of the governed, a concept that is known as popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty, translated as rule of the people, is a revolutionary concept. In the 18th century, most monarchs ruled by divine right, the belief that kings derived their authority from God. Locke rejected that, and so did Jefferson. He argued that government is not grounded in tradition or theology, but in a mutual agreement between the rulers and the ruled. Jefferson then goes on to a third undeniable fact, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its power in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Here, Jefferson pulls from Jean-Jacques Rousseau's theory of the social contract, which proposed that legitimate government must be based on the collective will of the people. Montesquieu, in the spirit of the laws, argued that a sacred and unspoken agreement exists between the government and its citizens. The citizens agree to submit to the laws made by the government, so long as the laws instituted by the government are just. If the government makes unjust laws that violate the rights of its citizens, the contract has been broken, and the people have the right and the obligation to dissolve the government and replace it with a new system that will better serve their needs. In the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson cites the social contract as the moral justification for the American Revolution. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. Jefferson is arguing that the British government, particularly under King George III, has consistently abused its power in ways that threaten the colonists' freedom. These actions weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a deliberate plan to impose tyranny. Because of that, the colonists weren't acting recklessly or rebelliously. They were doing what people were morally obligated to do when their government becomes oppressive: replace it with one that will protect their rights. Jefferson then proceeds to the longest part of the document, the list of grievances. It consists of 27 complaints that build the legal and moral case against King George III. These grievances were carefully chosen to show that the king had systematically violated the natural rights of the colonists, failed to uphold the social contract, and thus lost his moral and legal authority to govern. They include ignoring colonial laws, shutting down colonial governments, undermining colonial courts, and levying taxes without colonial representation. If the Declaration of Independence is the ultimate breakup letter, this is the part where the Americans say, "It's not me, it's you." And that's everything you need to know about the Declaration of Independence. You can click here for additional videos for AP U.S. government, and be sure to check out my videos on AP macroeconomics and AP microeconomics as well. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content on AP government and economics. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on You Will Love AP Gov.